Boys, just the other day we saw Conor McGregor in the White House giving some official speeches, and that had me thinking, what would be some absolutely diabolical, just some straight up menaces to the White House. I went through pretty much the entire roster, and I picked some guys who would be the biggest PR problems, some big nightmares for, the White House, for the UFC in general. And we're going to go through all of them, because if Conor McGregor could go out there and be in the White House, some of these guys, I wouldn't be surprised if they can make their way to the White House as well. This isn't in any specific order. I was thinking of doing this into a tier list, actually, but to be honest, all these dudes could go in S tier, So I'm just going to run through every single one of them. Not in any specific order. First one and last one doesn't mean that the first guy is going to be worse than the other guy. And yeah, if I forget anyone, let me know in the comments below. Let's start off straight away. Of course, we got to go with the boy Bryce Mitchell. If we go with Bryce Mitchell in the White House, guarantee there's going to be conversations like, hey, listen here, Mr. Trump. I think we need to have a official signed document talking about the earth being flat and about Hitler doing nothing wrong. I think we need to erase that from society, because to be honest, that was a good man. And I can see it just getting crazy. I could see him having some, official press conference moments, sitting there in the White House, all these journalists asking, so Mr. Mitchell, what do you think of the economy right now? What about the immigration problem? Stuff like that. And he would just go off, just saying some crazy stuff like, love him or hate him, Hitler kind of had a point, and just, I could see there being some legendary moments, but huge PR nightmares if we had Bryce Mitchell inside the White House. Moving down, another one that could be, I could see it going either way. We could have, a very good non-PR nightmare version, or just some diabolical moments. That's going to be Sean Strickland. Again, I could see Sean Strickland, throwing around not the hard R, but definitely the soft A. I could see him throwing that around there in the White House. Definitely saying things to Donald like, you know what, here's the thing, Donald. All of these damn immigrants and these black people, causing these riots, and, the Black Lives Matter is such a scam. And, just going on a huge PR nightmare fueled rant. I could see that happening. I could see Sean Strickland causing a lot of issues, saying shit like, you know what, Donald, if you were a man, you would take it by the nuts and you would start deporting these immigrants. And to be honest, I could see Donald like low-key agreeing with this shit too, but definitely a PR nightmare, Sean Strickland. Another one I have here is going to be Khamzat Chimaev. Now, I don't think it's going to be because he's going to say anything. Well, it's going to be because he says something crazy, but I don't think it's going to be super like out of pocket. But I could see him, he's getting a tour of the White House. This is the Lincoln room, this is that, the Lincoln bedroom, looking at historical things, presidents, things like that. This is Donald Trump's room. This is just going through every little nook and cranny of the White House. I could just see him be like, I don't care, brother. I don't care. I kill everyone. As soon as he says kill everyone, I guarantee Secret Service is on his ass, That's why I have Chimaev here. I could see him just slipping up saying he would kill everyone, not giving a fuck, and his ass is getting taken down. Moving down, Jon Jones. I think a PR nightmare is because I could low-key see Jon Jones trying to convince Donald to have some new laws about domestic violence and, how it's okay, I could see him being like, Donald, have you ever really thought about it? Like, why can't I put my hands on a woman, I'm gay. I could see conversations like that being had for Jon Jones, trying to sneak his way into, legalizing domestic violence and how it should be allowed to put his hands on some women. I could see that happening. Moving down, I got Anthony Smith. Now, the reason why I got Anthony Smith here is mainly because I could see him going up to Donald Trump and simply just going, you know what, Donald, like on paper, like right now, yeah, maybe you were the majority voted, but on paper, I think I could run this country better than you. And on paper, I just feel like I have everything in my arsenal to be the best president that the world has ever seen. And just being super delusional, gaslighting himself into believing that he could be the best president, gaslighting Donald Trump to think that he should, just like step down and let Anthony Smith start running shit. I could see him trying to gaslight his way into that. And again, PR nightmares. Let's go down. Another PR nightmare, Jiri Prochazka. Now, I feel like Jiri Prochazka would be one of these guys that just very schizo in the in the White House, looking at these things, over analyzing things, asking to go see maybe there's a room being renovated or a room that's not being used, and him asking, can I go see that room? Okay, let's go for that. I just need some privacy. And then just yelling at the top of his lungs, shadow boxing, having the whole White House on lockdown. I could just see some very schizo moments from Jiri in the White House. Maybe he goes up to Donald Trump and says, Trump, I want to take a picture with you. Let's go for that. And he raises his hand like he always does. Secret Service jumps his ass because they think he's about to attack the president. I could just see some very schizo moments from Jiri yelling in the White House, causing just a panic, to be honest. Moving down, a sneaky one that not a lot of people would probably think of. I got Bunking. You're telling me Bunking wouldn't go into the White House yelling whole lot of gang shit, Bunking, whole lot of gang shit, just running around stealing shit, stealing statues of like Abraham Lincoln, just very historical stuff like that, maybe finding the Declaration of Independence, just stealing stuff, saying Bunking, whole lot of gang shit while recording himself booking it out of the White House. So by far, probably just the biggest red flag out of everyone on this list so far. Moving down, we have also Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, I could see getting shot in the White House. I could see him having a conversation with Donald, being very civilized. Then all of a sudden be like, hey, Donald, any chance you know what a 4570 is? And then Donald be like, I have no idea what a 4570 is. And Kevin be like, you know what? Fuck you. If you don't know anything about a 4570, I hate you. Reaches out and grabs his gun and saying, this is a 4570, shot right there, dead. I could see Kevin Holland being a big problem in the White House, just trying to explain to Donald Trump what a 4570 is. Moving down, I also have this guy. I have Charles Radtke. Now, mainly because I could see him trying to do like a little bit of press conference, kind of like what Conor did, right there on the podium, being asked a whole lot of questions like, Charles, what do you think about the immigration problem? What do you think is wrong about the country? If you were the head chief, what would you do different? And I could see him, spitting out the hardest F slur known to mankind, saying, I think it's all these damn fat, just shouting that thing out with no regard. Definitely could see him being out here F slur after F slur after F slur. I'm not gonna say it. I kind of want this shit to get monetized, but I'm not trying to have my channel get removed, not even being public for a year. But moving down, Belal Muhammad, simple. I think it'd be shot dead for terrorist acts, I could see him going in there, White House, beeping starts happening. I'm not saying what the beeping is. It could be his watch letting him know that his alarm is going off. Shot dead instantly. And I'm not going to explain why I think that. Moving down, Silva, shot dead as well. I could see him barking his way into the White House, just going absolute, again, another psycho, schizo guy that I could see just being insane. Jumping from wall to wall, yelling, screaming, barking, shot dead. They would think he's possessed or something. Moving down, Henry Cejudo, very similar to like Anthony Smith, but a little bit different. I could see him being like, Donald, you know what I think you should do, Donald? I think we should, put in some tariffs here, man. I think Canada and Mexico really need more tariffs here, man. They're taking advantage of us, man. Donald will be like, I think that's a wonderful idea. Also, I think I'm gonna have some tax cuts here. And then Henry Cejudo should be like, yeah, man, I think honestly what you should do is some tax cuts here, man. The taxes are killing us. I think some tax cuts would be very good, Donald. Just like saying dumb shit like that he already said. He's just repeating himself. I could see Henry Cejudo just being a very, very annoying ass dude in the White House. The reporters asking him questions like, Henry, Donald is out here doing some immigration work, trying to deport a lot of these immigrants. And Henry Cejudo would be like, yeah, man, I really think the problem right now is immigration, man. I think we need to get out a lot of these illegal immigrants, man. They're just not helpful for our society, man. Just repeating the same thing that Donald is saying, just trying to make it sound fancy. And you best believe he's gonna say, and man like 20 times during every question. Moving down, last guy on the list, Jeff Molina. I'm not gonna explain why. If you know, you know. I just don't want any weird headlines or any other like assault type of things under the desk. If you know what I mean. If you know, you know. We don't need Jeff Molina in there with another tape out on Twitter. If you know, you know. I'm just gonna say that's everyone I have. Let me know, did I miss anyone? Who would just be a nightmare to have at the White House? And I haven't done many tier lists as of recently. Tomorrow we got a banger tier list, and it's very prominent, very, what's the word I'm trying to think of, very up to date, I guess, of some certain events that are just diabolical in my opinion. Some just stupid things that have happened recently in MMA, specifically the UFC. But yeah, stay tuned to that. Turn those post notifications on if you aren't subscribed yet so you don't miss that video. And yeah guys, thank you for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you guys in my next video.